Good afternoon. Welcome to Real Talk with Mary Grace. I'm coming to you live on the 9th of November 2020. Good to see everyone here. Hello. As you're coming in, welcome on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. Please share this. Please get this link out to your followers. You can copy the link, you can share it, you can invite followers if you're on Periscope. You can share the link onto your page. If you're on Facebook, please drop a comment in the chat and let us know that you're here. Good to see everybody. Welcome. Texas, Colorado, lots of people here. Great to see everybody. We're going to get started in just a second. Good to see all of you. All right. So we do have moderators, and we have had quite a few trolls. Hey, cousin. Yeah, so I will be muting, we will be muting and blocking. And so if you get caught in the crossfire, you can send me a message, info@marygracemedia.com. If something happens and you're blocked by accident, it does happen sometimes. If you're just a straight up troll, you're not going to get unblocked. FYI. Okay. Well, how's everybody doing? We have had a lot happening over the last several days. It's almost a week since Election Day 2020, and we have quite a few developments, as you might have noticed. The president's legal team has filed a number of lawsuits. They have received a number of complaints and testimonies from whistleblowers, from individuals around the country in different states. They just finished a press conference with Kayleigh McEnany, with Ronna McDaniel, the head of the RNC, and with the the head of the legal counsel for the Trump campaign. I didn't catch his name. Okay, here's where we are with this. I do urge you to go back and watch the press conference. Sadly, the networks decided that it wasn't newsworthy, and so uh, Fox News was airing it, and Neil Cavuto cut away, which is very interesting because the networks spent 4 years entertaining false allegations of the president being an agent of Russia and of being guilty of treason, among other things. And they aired that 24/7. But they didn't think that it was newsworthy to let the American people know what's happening with this election, which has not been certified in any states. And I just want to make it clear that Biden is not the president elect. Biden is, for now, the projected president. Those of us who are currently following the news and who are up to date with what's happening, we understand that we understand that none of that is true. That the president actually won, and that the votes were added for Biden illegally. Okay. Now, I can't get into all of the details of every lawsuit, but what I do need for you to know is that the Trump campaign and his team are are extremely gifted and talented. They are on top of what's happening. I want to make it very clear to you, especially the new people, everyone who's following on Facebook and YouTube. If you're just finding my channel, I want you to know that President Trump will not concede. He is the president. He is not leaving the White House. You're going to hear reports and stories from the fake news telling you a whole lot of things that are meant to confuse you and concern you and make you think that the president is acting illegally, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, for example, you're hearing a story right now that says the president is refusing to allow the Biden campaign access to the things that they need to begin the transition. So they don't have government access to offices and facilities in Washington, D.C. You're going to hear that if you're watching traditional news. Well, the reason that that's not being granted is because President Trump is the president, and because Biden is not the president elect. So when Trump got elected, he immediately had access, more or less immediately had access, because that's the protocol. And so the media is counting on you not understanding this process and not knowing that this is how it works. And so that's what they're doing. They're going to try to gaslight you. They're trying to tell you crazy, insane things like that Melania is urging the president to step down, and and she actually came out with a tweet yesterday right after that nonsense broke, and said that every legal vote should be counted. And so obviously she's not urging or pressing her husband to step down. There's another story saying that she's can't wait to file for divorce. I know for a fact that that's not going to happen. Her family is very happy here. Her parents live in Florida. They're extremely happy. They're part of the Trump family. There's not a shred of truth to what you're hearing. So just remember, don't get caught up in the rumor mill, because that is where they want to drive your emotions and tell you things, and get you to participate in lies that just aren't true. Okay. So just remember that. And I want to tell you a couple of other things that are happening, but let me switch for just a minute to what's going on with the election. The To what's going on with the election, and with the lawsuits and things like that. I told you yesterday, and if you didn't watch my broadcast, make sure you do that. But I told you that I was pretty certain uh, that the primary focus of the lawsuits that were going to be filed regarding Pennsylvania centered on the constitutionality or lack thereof of these states that were unilaterally making decisions about voter procedures and policies, about election procedures and policies. And that is what happened today. Okay, so that's what Jay Sekulow was talking about. He's on the president's legal team. He is a veteran of the Supreme Court. He's presented many cases there, and so he was talking about that. He was saying it is, and the guests that he had on, they were just saying this is really important, because when the Constitution is very clear about how states, about the role of states in running their elections, and it says that the elections processes are put into law, determined and put into law by the state legislatures. And so, for example, there are states that have legitimate procedures for mail-in voting, and it's legitimate, and it's because it's been put in place by the state legislature. What happened in Pennsylvania and in several other states, including Nevada, is that the governors or the state officials, different people in the states made decisions to change the voting procedure at the 11th hour. And so this is really important because, uh, for example, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania made a decision that they basically legislated from the bench, and they said that this was legal. What was happening, and so what really is important to understand here is that the bigger picture has to do with the constitutional basis for how elections are run at the state level. This is why this election is so important. This doesn't have anything to do with the president's feelings or his lack of willingness to concede, or if he's being a sore loser. The media is driving a narrative that makes you that is completely ignoring the fact that this is a constitutional issue. And one thing that came up today that Jay Sekulow was talking about, which was very important and meaningful, is that several states, including Ohio, have filed what is known as an amicus brief. And that's really it means friend of the court, or a friendly brief. And what that means, as far as I understand, is that they are actually filing a brief that the attorneys general of those states are filing in solidarity with the Trump campaign, and they are petitioning the court on behalf of the Trump campaign, but also on behalf of Americans at large. And why are they doing that? They are doing that because they understand that this issue is about the Constitution as a whole. This issue is about the voting rights of all Americans. And so, for example, if Pennsylvania is allowed to get away with this, and these votes are upheld, if the votes that came in Pennsylvania and were counted after the cutoff time that was designated by law by the Pennsylvania legislature, if those votes are allowed to count, that effectively disenfranchises every voter in America because it can shift the entire election. So, do you understand? Are you with me on that? This is a really critical thing to understand because the media isn't going to tell you this. They're not going to explain this because they're 100% in the tank for Joe Biden. They have effectively declared him the next president. And so, as you look at this process play out, please understand that the goal of the Democrat Party, the goal of the Democrat Party is to completely change and undercut and undermine the US Constitution. They've said that. They think the Constitution is a living document. They've said that many times. And so to have an originalist on the bench, to have judges on the bench in the US Supreme Court who are originalists, who who interpret the Constitution as it was written by the founding fathers, that is a big problem for them because they want fundamentally the to change the U.S. Constitution, which would really uh, alter the United States forever. We would no longer be a constitutional republic. And so this is really critical to understand. People from other countries are asking me. I'm Mary Grace Media on YouTube, so people from other countries are asking me, what's going on and why this is so important, and whether how come we keep saying we're a republic and not a democracy. And so part of what you're seeing play out right here really is a fight to preserve the U.S. Constitution and the very fabric and the bedrock of all of what makes us unique as the United States of America. And so I really can't stress this enough that you understand what's going on here. And I mentioned and I told you yesterday that I think that all of these cases that are coming up about voter fraud, this is important. It's critical. But what we're looking at the constitutional level is even more critical. This is because this is really generational. This affects everything about our country. Not that these other things aren't important, but what I'm saying is what I'm saying to you is that this is this is the crux of what the legal team is focusing on because it carries so much weight going forward. And the president told us when he came out the other night that he is here to preserve the integrity of our elections. And that's what this is about. And so that's really important. I hope everybody understands that. Give me a thumbs up, give me a comment on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope if you're getting that. Uh, most of the people who are looking at this and who are getting this news really don't understand that this is what's going on here. And so what we're looking at two different concepts. One is voter fraud. The other is election fraud. And so the bigger picture here is election fraud. Okay? Why is that different? Well, because election fraud has to do with the fundamental um, mechanisms and laws surrounding the way that we conduct our elections. And that is the crux of what we're looking at here. And the media won't talk about that. They will continue to tell you that there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud. And so they're deflecting when they say that. And if you were watching the interview the other day that Kristi Noem did, she's the governor of South Dakota, that Kristi Noem did with George Stephanopoulos, he pushed back at her with that talking point, which is one of the main talking points that they're using, which is that there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Well, for one thing, why does it have to be widespread to be significant? Because Americans have the right to fair elections, fair and transparent elections. And so even one instance of voter fraud is one too many. So there's that. But the other thing that the media continues to push is, where's the evidence? There's no evidence. And so the way that legal procedures work in America is that, when you file a case or when you bring an accusation, you have your day in court. And so the evidence is brought forth in court. The evidence is subpoenaed. And so it's not up to us to bring the evidence to the media. As a matter of fact, if they are doing their jobs, they're actually going to go and try to find the evidence themselves to either prove or disprove um, the case, right? But you get that. Now, in terms of election fraud, the thing that the media is not really talking about is the widespread systemic concerns that we have about election fraud, about the rules, the laws, the mechanisms that are in place to protect the integrity of our elections going forward, and to ensure that the American people have fair and open access to to elections and to their vote. And so that's really important. And so there are a couple of things at play. I just mentioned to you the issue with the Constitution. The Constitution clearly states that state legislatures uh, make the election laws in their individual states. So that's important. The other piece here that we're looking at is election security from a um, from a critical infrastructure standpoint, from the standpoint of national security and critical infrastructure, because these are the things that, if they are not safeguarded and protected, it can undermine our country and actually open us up to a lot of problems and even takeover by foreign entity. Because let's face it, our elections right now are not run the way that they were meant to. They are run the way that elections have been run in banana republics. And so this is important. It's really important because, for example, you're looking at uh, you're looking at voting machines and software that are being used in 29 states, and it is being found that it was reported a couple of days ago that this software had a glitch that resulted in a swing around 6,000 votes that were meant for Trump, but they went for Biden, and that was in one county. And so it ended up that when they were reversed, they went for Trump. But it turns out that that machine and that software was being used in numerous counties within that state. I think like 47 counties. Now the other thing that we found out after that was that that those machines are used in 29 states. That's what Chanel Rion with One America News is reporting. I said the other day that it was 30. She's reporting that it's 29. Now, here's something else important that we found out is that the state of Texas, they were actually reviewing those machines and they were looking at the machines as potential for their elections, and they outright rejected it. They rejected those machines on a number of criteria, and they found that it was that there was no way that they would be secure. And so, interestingly, those machines were rejected in Texas. Texas had their results in the same night. Interesting, right? And so what we're looking at is we're looking at these particular machines, this particular software, and Chanel Rion is reporting, and some of the Anons uncovered that that these machines, wait for it, are tied to the Clinton Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative. Does that surprise you? They turn up everywhere. Yeah. So, okay. So, right? Okay. Hold on just a second. Um, okay. So that's important to understand. Now, the other thing that's important to understand, uh, that the other thing that's important to understand is that the is that this program called the Hammer and the Scorecard has been revealed as problematic, and people have been showing videos of things happening in real time where the numbers are being switched. It's like a vote switching mechanism, and so for example, you know, when Biden gets credited with 500 votes, it takes 500 away from Trump. And so going back to the software the Dominion software, they're talking about a glitch in it, and Bill Binney said that it's not a glitch, it's a feature. A glitch is when something happens intermittently and inconsistently. A feature is something that's programmed into software that happens consistently, and that's what he was explaining. And so, and he's an intelligence expert, and so going so that's important to understand. And then, um, okay, somebody said it will be very difficult to prove that. I'll come back to that in just a minute. Now, as far as the hammer and the scorecard situation goes, what we're seeing is that this program switches votes. Okay, and people were screen recording on election night that this was happening um, in real time. They were seeing it on TV. Okay, on TV as they were watching it, and there's one video where the guy slowed down the frame, and you can see that on the ticker that the broadcaster was showing, uh, it had the numbers there. But on the bottom tape, under at the bottom, the lower third, they hadn't caught up and they hadn't changed the numbers. So you saw on the top part where they took the numbers away from Trump and gave them to Biden, and it still hadn't been the math hadn't been corrected on the bottom tape, and so it was very obvious. And I was talking to my sister about this. My sister is a Bernie supporter, and she is an unaffiliated voter, and she has the reason she's unaffiliated is because she's really disgusted with what's going on with the Democrat Party. She was registered as a Democrat at one time, but we were texting back and forth about this last night, and it's very interesting because I brought up the point. Please share this, by the way. If you're just coming in, please share, please invite followers. I brought up the point about this because the the vote switching right here that's been happening. I brought it up to my sister, and she said something very interesting. She said, "Do you remember?" Because I said, "I think this is what they did to Bernie in the primaries." She said, I believe it." She said, "Absolutely, in the 2016 primary for sure." And she said, "The other thing," she said, "Do you remember when people were trying to vote and their vote was getting switched to the other candidate? Do y'all remember that during the 2016 election, at the voting machines where you would put in your, people had videos of putting in your vote and then it would switch back? Do y'all remember that?" And so my sister was talking about this, and we were talking about how this behavior, what we're seeing happen now, and the way these elections are already decided beforehand, and the way the numbers are manipulated. This is literally what the CIA does in third world countries. And she said, yeah, this is what they did in Iran, right? When they took out the Shah of Iran, I believe they did it with Sadat in Egypt. So there are a number of examples of this happening, and so now I'm starting to think this has been going on for a long time, and that's what people were seeing. Maybe it was a version of scorecard happening in 2016 and in the Democrat primaries. So this is interesting, and so I've been telling you guys that the the numbers that have come in for Biden are just impossible. They're impossible because my sister, the Bernie voter, sees very clearly what's going on here, and she did not vote for Biden. And I'm telling you that the Bernie voters did not show up in force for Biden. They're disgusted by what has happened. They're demoralized and disgusted with the Democrat and Republican establishment agreement. And so the the uniparty. And so there's just no way logically that Biden made up for these numbers with Bernie voters. Are y'all seeing that too? Who else knows? Who else knows Bernie voters who just sat this one out or wrote in a third party? This is significant, and nobody's really talking about it. Everybody's just happy to assume that every person who's not a registered Republican voted for Biden. And that's just not the case, right? I mean, and we're seeing all these people coming out celebrating for Biden at this point. Um, and that in itself is astonishing because, where were all these people during his rallies? They told us that his rallies were sparsely attended because of COVID. But then 3 days after the election, thousands of people are partying in the streets all over different cities, New York City, Washington. They're all partying, but they couldn't attend a Biden rally. So if this isn't an AstroTurf campaign, I don't know what is. Do you understand what I mean by that? These people are brought in. These people are brought um, in organically to show support for this so-called president-elect. Do you understand? I mean, this is when you see the manipulation, when you understand what it is that they're doing, it all starts to make more sense. It's like once you see it and once your eyes are open to it, you can't really unsee it. Okay, and so yeah, I think that some of those people were paid. I saw one video where somebody was saying that the person there was paid $100 an hour. Um, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen that confirmed, but that is something to consider. Okay. Now, thank you to everyone who is watching. If you are just coming in, my name is Mary Grace. This is Mary Grace Media. I'm giving you some analysis of the 2020 election. You can follow me at marygracemedia.com on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and Clout Hub. And make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you share this, make sure that you hit like, hit hearts, touch the screen, and that helps our engagement. Your commenting on Facebook also helps with engagement so more people can see this. Okay. You can also go to my website, marygracemedia.com, and you can click on my social media links there. You can contact me at info@marygracemedia.com. Okay. Let's see. I'm on Parlor also. Yeah, Mary Grace Media. It's all Mary Grace Media, Instagram, everywhere. So let me look at my list here. How do you guys feel about where we are right now with the whole process, the lawsuits, um, the the litigation, how this is going to go? You understand that we're not going to have a decision like today, right? Um, you get that. Now going back to the cybersecurity critical infrastructure piece that I was talking about earlier about how this is so important that people understand that we're looking at the bigger picture and that when the president set up the CISA division under DHS, that it was addressing our election processes and and it's considered critical infrastructure. So this is really a national security issue, and so interestingly, the president fired Esper today. He fired the acting Secretary of Defense Esper. He actually said that he terminated him, and so. If you watch the president right now, you watch what he does over the next few days, watch what he's done over the weekend. I think that you'll see that the president isn't worried. He played golf Saturday and he played golf Sunday. And I was saying yesterday that that he when was the last time he played golf 2 days in a row? Right? And this is something that has the media and his enemies wondering and guessing. And last night they reported that there was nothing on the president's schedule for today, and that really bothers them because they want to control the situation and they know that they've lost control of the situation. They know they're not in control. You guys see that? And the fact that he's out there playing golf, he's sending a signal, which is, I'm not going anywhere and I'm not worried. You shouldn't be worried either. Uh, Today, he's tweeting up a storm, and he's tweeting up a storm, and he is firing people. The other thing that happened is that that Bill Barr was in Congress, and he was seen coming out of a meeting with Mitch McConnell. All right. And so everybody who's been asking, where's Bill Barr? Okay. I told you he's doing his job. He's just not screaming from the rooftops what he's doing. So just relax and let him do his job. Relax and let the president do his job. He knows what he's doing. He's got this. He has the best legal team there is. So just don't worry. The president is confident. He's comfortable with this. He has his team on it. Again, what he is doing is he's working to restore and rebuild and preserve the integrity of our elections going forward. And that's what's so critical. All right. Now, I want to remind you of a couple of things that are really important because we are still Brazilians for Trump. It's Minnie. I'm looking at my YouTube chat. Yes. Okay. Now we are still looking at some critical races that must be won because the Democrats, as you know, they want to keep the House, they want to take back the Senate and the presidency. And so they're acting as though all of that is a done deal. But right now in Georgia, there are two critical races that are going to runoffs in January, and that's both for the Senate. And so if you are in Georgia, even if you're not, it's very important that you support these races, and that is for Kelly Loeffler and Perdue. So those are the two candidates for Senate in Georgia. You can contribute to their campaigns. You can go volunteer. If you are not um, if you're not registered to vote in Georgia, or if you have a family member, like a child who's turning 18 this year, who can register, it is you can register to vote in Georgia for this special election. So this is important, and the Democrats are going to pour millions and millions of dollars into this because it's like their one chance to get the Senate back. So that's really critical that we pay attention to that race in Georgia. And so I just don't want you to forget that. There are two Senate races in Georgia that we need to pay attention to. Now, speaking of Georgia, it turns out, I believe, that the governor of Georgia, Kemp, is compromised. That's what we're seeing, and it looks like he is compromised by the CCP. That he is one of the people who is the reason that he's not helping the president get the voting under control in Georgia um, is because he's compromised. And so, and I think this voting machine situation, I think there's some ties there with him. Let me look at let me look at the situation there. Have you guys seen that? Did you see that? Okay. Boy, so much has happened. It's good to see all of you. Okay. Voting machines. All right. Let me see. Okay, we'll come back to that. There's so much happening, you guys, and it's hard to keep up with it. I mean, I could I could be I could be doing this 24/7 and not be able to give you all the information that you need. But hopefully, hopefully you can still get the highlights. I'm trying to give you the highlights. All right. Um, how can both Senate seats be up at the same time? I don't know what you mean by that, Delia. Um, I think because one of them was it was a special election, I think. Um, I'd have to look into that. Oh, one of the things I wanted to point out to you is just some of the anomalies about some of the anomalies in this election, and this is something that I think can actually be used uh, that can be used in the courts um, to present as evidence of voter fraud. Okay, and so one of those big things is the top of the ticket voting, and so what does that mean? It means that um, there are vast numbers of people who voted only for Biden on their ballot and not for any other candidate on the down ballot. And I mentioned this yesterday. So, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, interestingly, all of which are outstanding states with a big question mark over the results. And so, what is the reason? Why is that important? Why is that significant? It's because in an election year, most of the time, most people turn out in bigger numbers in an election year. Okay. Um, but they typically, when they do that, even if they don't know exactly what's going on with the candidates on the down ballot, they're gonna fill in all the circles. Okay, it's just human nature. It's like Republican, 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 Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. All right, just like it's unusual for most people, especially the low information voter, they're not going to vote for a Democrat for president and then Republican for everything else. They literally just stay, on the same party. Okay. um, and so that is it's a huge red flag, especially when you have such massive percentages. And one of the things that is important to understand about elections is that it's kind of fun if you're a math nerd, or if you're a data nerd, a data junkie, because and this is where I think the Democrats really shot themselves in the foot, is because when when you're looking at elections, you have years and years and years worth of data. And so it's very easy to run analysis and to look for statistical anomalies. I mean, you could teach a statistics class just by using election data. It'd be very easy to do that. And so of course you have all these people now who have time on their hands because of COVID, who have even more time to sit around and extract and analyze data, right? And and we have the digital army, we have the anons and the autists on our side, who literally, that's what they do, right? They're going to analyze, they just love data. And so it really, like, if you're going to cheat at something, don't cheat so rampantly and so obviously at something that has historical data to back up the other side's claims that you cheated. You with me? So, right? Because that data is available. It's public knowledge. It's public information. You don't even have to get a FOIA to get most of this data. And so you can go on the Secretary of State website for any state and get historical election data. And so that's where you have, like, I mean, technically pollsters are supposed to be using real data and things like that. A lot of times they make it up. But the people who really like data, the people who are real data junkies, they actually want to get into the granular data. They want to get down into the nitty gritty of the numbers. And so that's what we're seeing happen right now, is we're seeing people who are exposing this. And so these are not anecdotal reports of somebody saying, uh, I didn't get my mail-in ballot, somebody took it, right? You can't necessarily prove that. Okay. And so the media is when the media is saying there's no evidence of widespread fraud or voter fraud, they want you to think about these anecdotal stories. So that's what they want to deflect away from the fact that that we have mountains and mountains and mountains of historical data. And so when you can prove statistical anomalies, you can prove statistical anomalies over a widespread sample. That's one way, that's one piece of evidence that you can bring to a judge. All right. And so another thing that, for example, is that there's a panel. I think it's like 20 counties that historically, always, like, the vote, the way those counties are, like, statistical anchors of predicting the president. It's sort of like when the groundhog goes in or out, right? It's, long winter, short winter. There's a list of counties around the country that are like bellwethers of the way that the election will go. Have you all seen that? And so it's very interesting because those counties uh, traditionally always are indicators of how the election is going to go. Okay, and so these are the statistical anomalies that people are looking for. All right. Um, yeah. So yeah, I just have a comment I want to address. Somebody said it's not right to give these people hope like this. Yeah, I agree that the media and the Democrats are really building up their followers and other Democrats for a huge fall because they're doing a massive disservice to these people. Um, they really are because they're just lying to them by telling them that that Joe Biden is the president elect. And so the fall from this is going to be so hard. Um, and it's a huge disservice. It really is. I was actually calling out somebody from CBS about it today. And so we need to pray for these people that are going to be so let down when they find out that this president actually was legitimately that Trump was legitimately elected. Um, okay, so now we also need to pray for the people who came forward and the people who came forward as whistleblowers and the people who came forward and signed their names to affidavits. Okay, um, because these people are coming out. These people are coming out and risking the vitriol and the ire of the left, because what the left usually does is they dox people and they try to cancel them. They try to destroy them. Okay, so just remember that it's a big deal. All right. And so the president is going to fight. He's going to keep at this. He's not going to back down. He because he won. He literally had won the election on election night. Yeah, the media is already telling you what they want to do to you and your family for being a Trump supporter. I mean, they want to add you to a list. They want to send you to a gulag. They want to make sure that you never get a job again. This is the party of inclusion. This is the party of unity. This is the party that's saying, why can't we all get along? Um, they literally have burned down our cities, and now they're virtue signaling and telling people that that Joe Biden is here to fix everything, and let's all get along. Okay, and so you can bet over the next several days you're going to see the media demanding to know who the whistleblower is in different states, who are election workers who've come forward to give testimony about the election fraud that they've seen. Um, they're going to do it, and they're the ones who went to great pains to protect the whistleblower, for example, in the impeachment case, in the false impeachment case. Do you remember when when social media accounts were banned from saying the name of the whistleblower in the Ukraine impeachment case? You remember that? Yeah, so let's see how that standard applies now. Let's see what happens when the left starts coming out with the names and addresses and personal information of whistleblowers, because right now they're digging and trying to find that information. Okay, just keep that in mind. You're going to see double standards like you've never seen before in the coming weeks. You already see it now. You see it with these big super spreader events. Okay, somebody just said that the president's legal team is before the Supreme Court at this moment. So a lot of people are in prayer. Um, Pray as we are. even on the broadcast right now. Lord, we pray that you would give them favor, that you would give them clarity, that the justices would do the right thing, that they would act with integrity and act from a place of truth, and that they would uphold the Constitution, that there would be no legislating from the bench in the United States Supreme Court. And we do pray for protection for every single person who has come forward, regardless of party. That's what we're asking. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. Now, the other thing too that is important about this, when we were watching the press briefing with Kayleigh McEnany and the RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel was saying that she was talking to the press and she said, these are sworn affidavits, because somebody in the press said, well, do you have any proof? and and it was just laughable, because she said, I just told you we have like over 70 affidavits in Michigan alone. So maybe the media doesn't understand what an affidavit is. It's a sworn document. This isn't just hearsay. Somebody is putting themselves on the line and saying, this is what I saw, this is what happened to me, and I am swearing an oath on my name to tell you that this is what happened. This isn't just, oh hey, I think I saw it. They're signing under oath that they're telling the truth. That's the part that the media doesn't understand, because they don't know how things work, or they don't want to know how things work. So, and something interesting about the Supreme Court right now, it's very interesting because, yeah, so Lauren is saying that Clarence Thomas will write the majority opinion. Let's never forget that. Let's never forget that the that Joe Biden was on I believe, the Senate Judiciary Committee that interrogated Clarence Thomas and made his life miserable. It was what Clarence Thomas described as a high-tech lynching. Do you remember that? So this is interesting now that the fate and the future of our election is in the hands of Clarence Thomas, because what Joe Biden did to him was reprehensible, and we have seen this happen so many times with the left. They really are. Joe Biden is just unbelievable. He's just a flat out racist, and we've seen evidence of that over and over and over again. Yeah. So, and the bottom line here, guys, is that what we're looking at is that it's the job of the government to administer to protect the rights of the people, because in America, government functions by the consent of the governed, and our rights are given to us by God, and it's the job of the government to preserve and protect those rights. It says it right there in the Declaration of Independence. And so this is what separates us in America, in the United States of America, from any other nation on earth. And so the fight that we're in is the fight to preserve that. There's no other country that functions that way. The government gives you rights and takes them away. And so, when it's so important that people understand this, because the things that people are allowing right now, like even with COVID, it's very sad when you see people who are just willingly allowing their rights to be eroded and stripped of them, and not even demanding that the government protect their rights. And so part of my job and part of my mandate is to really help people understand that, and to do what I can to support this president, to support this administration, and to make sure that that people understand and have a better understanding of what it is that that we have in this country and what it is that our ancestors fought and died to preserve. There's no other nation like this ever. Um, so, uh, Lauren, are you giving us an update, Lauren? The Senate refused to procedurally clear Biden on federal ethics. Biden is prohibited from starting power transition. Is that what's happening right now? Is this breaking news? Because that's great if that's true. I'm going to read that again. Um, hey, Rachel. Yeah, it is a fight. It's a fight for the soul of our country, for sure. Um, it's funny, I don't see you on the thing. Okay. Um, yeah, it's absolutely time. Somebody just said what happened. That's what happened earlier. Okay. All right. I'm just reading the comments here. So if you're watching me on another platform, I'm reading the comments on Periscope. So I apologize. Now, let's see. I think starting transition. They're saying that Biden cannot start the transition process. The Senate. Okay. Um, I will. I will. Okay. All right. Let me just check my notes here. Is there anything I missed? Any questions? Does anybody have any questions? I'm gonna stay on for a few more minutes. I will tell you about Clout Hub. Clout Hub is has been basically the hosting platform. IBM was infiltrated by leftists, and they were influenced by leftists, and so they took down all of our videos from Clout Hub. And the owner, the CEO of Clout Hub, is working very hard to get another hosting to get other hosting for our videos. Okay, so pray for him. He's really upset about this, as anyone would be. He's put a lot on the line here to get this platform going, and so we need to have a platform where we can really freely express ourselves. Yeah, and a lot of people put a lot of work into getting their content up on Cloud Hub, including Praying Medic and Dilly and Greg Harvey. I was just starting to get traction over there, so just pray for that platform. Pray for Jeff Brain, the CEO. He really needs our prayers right now, and just protection from these kind of attacks. Um, and so he does need that. There is a massive MAGA rally in Washington D.C. this weekend on the 14th. It is, I think, from 12 to 6. It's the Million MAGA March. I think that's what they call it. And it is so it's the Million MAGA March. Um, and so I might go to that. I'm going to see how it goes. It starts at Freedom Plaza, it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And so I think they're going to be setting up speakers, in both places. I don't know the entire gist of it just yet. Yeah, so I want to be clear about Cloud Hub. Cloud Hub is a very good platform. IBM caved to Media Matters on this situation. So this has nothing to do with Cloud Hub, with Jeff, with the director, or anything like that. Um, so just keep that in mind. Um, the Yeah, and so it's the million MAGA march, right? One thing I will say about Washington D.C. is that um, Washington D.C. is not that big, so the idea of getting a million people or 2 million people on the mall is intriguing. And if it happens, that'll be awesome. Um, and so we'll see what happens. I don't know where you would put all those people, but one thing I will tell you about DC is that I I feel safer in DC than I feel pretty much anywhere. And there's a lot of federal agents there. There's a lot of federal police. There's Capitol Police. Every federal agency has their own federal police. So, like Treasury has police. The Department of Homeland Security has police. Like it's a lot of officers. A lot of law enforcement. And so so the that's just something to think about. So when I go to DC, people are always saying, be careful, be careful, be careful. One of the things that happens when you see a lot of these videos in DC of people getting into uh, confrontations and scuffles and things like that, it's usually because in some cases they're going looking for it, right? I mean, that's what reporters do. You sometimes you put yourself in a dangerous situation, and but for the most part, like when you're on the National Mall doing an event, or like if I'm up at the Supreme Court or something, I don't really feel like I'm in danger. Does that make sense? I mean, you have to be careful, of course, but there's certain areas. There's certain areas of DC that are not necessarily safe, even on a good day. You know. Yeah, and here's the other thing too is that DC is a city of tourism, and at some point, they actually want to people who run businesses there actually want to have business again, and so they don't want their city to be to have a reputation for being unsafe. Okay, just something to think about. Okay, but it is very safe. I mean, I feel very safe. In fact, when they had these marches over the weekend, they had one last weekend. They had one in Richmond and they had one in D.C. And I didn't go. I was already busy, but I would have gone to D.C. before I went to Richmond because I feel safer in D.C. than I would feel in downtown Richmond, Virginia. Just FYI. There was allegedly 500,000 to 800,000 at the Million Man March years ago. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I'm just saying that that's a lot of people, you know. Um, it is. So 2 million in DC, that's a lot. I mean, that would be awesome if they did, but that's just a lot of people. And the plaza between the Capitol and the Supreme Court, like that wouldn't hold 2 million people. It's not that big. It's just there's the Supreme Court Plaza and the stairs, and then there's a street, and then there's the plaza that goes to the Capitol. So just trying to give you guys perspective on the size and scale, if you haven't been there. So it's about 2 hours from where I am. What's the picture to the left of me? It says it always seems impossible until it's done. Okay. Any more questions? Because I think I'm going to go make dinner. Go to Summit News. There's talk of truckers shutting down on November 29th. Oh, I did see that. Yeah. Yeah. I saw something on Twitter. I think on TikTok, the truckers are talking about this. That is, I think they're talking about just parking the trucks on the 29th of November. Um, yeah, so that may be a thing. I mean, we were at Sam's today and we did buy toilet paper, just in case. But one of the things that people have been kind of doing, kind of leaning toward, in general, is just kind of stocking up, for the winter because of what's going on, nationwide, right? Because when they declare this for the president, for Trump, when they do that, it's actually going to have a huge impact. There's going to be massive, fallout. Uh, and so, we don't exactly know what's going to be happening. And that leads me to the next topic, which is that one of the best ways to stock up is to get superfoods from me. And because they're amazingly shelf stable and organic and green, and they are shipped right to your door. And you don't have to worry about quality, you don't have to worry about supply chain or anything like that. And so, because and it's the best nutrition you can get. And so, so just okay. So just keep that in mind. The way that you get superfoods from me. Sorry, I had to block some people. The superfoods is a great value. If you write to me, you can get a coupon for $50 to $100 off of a whole month's supply. We do ship to Canada. Yep. So you can write to me, info@marygracemedia.com. And I do recommend that you do it soon, because even if there isn't a strike, there is going to be a huge influx in online shopping during the holidays, which is coming up like now. And so, yeah, Lauren, make sure you get your order in, so that you can, because you're going to be busy, right? And so make sure you get your order in so that you have more than enough. All right. And if you're new to superfoods, I'll send you some information. It's a fantastic source of nutrition. It's what I use. I actually nursed my cat back to health when he almost died. I gave him superfoods, and so it's safe for kids. We do actually have a pet formula, um, but it's a really really good source of nutrition, and it's a U.S. based company, and I get credit when you do that. And so when you purchase the superfoods, you're investing in your health, you're taking great care of your family, you're saving yourself a ton of time, and you're prepping just in case we don't, just in case there is supply chain issues or anything like that. Um, so anyway, the superfoods are available through me, info@marygracemedia.com, and I will send you a voucher so that you can save money on the superfoods. Okay. The other way to support me is if you the other way to support me is if you want to go to my website, marygracemedia.com, and just click on support. You can do that. Okay. Last question. Did you do your interview at BBC Ulster? Oh my gosh, I did. Yeah. That is a great question. Do you guys want to hear it? It was a full, okay, you're interested in the pet superfoods. It's really good. info@marygracemedia.com. Let me get my charger for my computer. I did a full 8 minutes with one network on the BBC, and it was really good. And I'll play it for you. I recorded it. They cut it down to like a minute on their network, but I recorded the whole thing. Do you guys want to stick around and listen to it? All right, hold on. Let me get my charger. Okay, I'll be right back. Notice how quiet the cat was today. Okay, I'm back. I forgot to plug in my computer and the battery was dying. All right, 8 minutes. So here we go. I thought it was really good. I'll play it for you. And then I can look at comments while we do it. All right. Okay. Let me find it for you. Oh, the other thing I was going to tell you is I have a link if you want to contribute to Trump's legal defense. Write to me and get the link. Everybody who wrote to me before, write to me again, because my link was missing a vital piece of information. It was missing my code, and so make sure that you write to me, info@marygracemedia.com. if you want to support the president's legal fund for the campaign. Okay. info@marygracemedia.com. Get the link straight from me, and and you can contribute. You can, any amount works. You can do, you know, 50, $100, $25, doesn't matter. When you do it, I actually get the credit. So there's that. All right. So I'm going to play my interview now. How long do litigations take? Well, what the campaign is doing now is that they are uh, asking, they're doing like emergency, they're asking for emergency hearings. Okay, so it can't take but so long. Somebody was asking about fruitcake. There is actually a bakery in my town that makes really good fruitcake. If you write to me, I'll give you their number and they may ship to you. It's really, really good. I love it. I love fruitcake. My granny used to make fruitcake. All right. So info@marygracemedia.com. Do you need to write to me again? Yeah, write to me again because the link that I shared it was missing my bundler code, unfortunately. I just figured that out. Okay. So so try it again. Okay, here's my BBC interview. I'm gonna be quiet. Oops, hold on. Volume.
This because
Okay.
I'm not surprised that it has gone to this because the Democrats have been telling us for a long time how they planned to handle this election.
Okay, hold on a second. First of all, this was 7 a.m. the day after the election, and I had 2 hours of sleep. So if I sound quieter than usual, that's why. And I have the volume up as high as I can get it. All right, here we go.
After losing to Donald Trump in 2016, they were completely caught by surprise. And I believe they've spent the last 4 years trying to figure out a way to counter another win by Donald Trump. And pushing this election into the courts has always been on the table for them.
And it's starting to look that way. I know Donald Trump has come out this morning claiming fraud, no basis to that as of yet. But do you think this will go as far as the courts before we find out who will end up in the Oval Office?
I actually do believe it will, and this is one reason that the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett was so critical before the election, because as you know, we now have a 9-person court, which is the way that it was designed, and we really we're going to be looking at her for a decision, I believe, on this election, and what one thing I want to point out to listeners is that elections work is that each state runs the elections, and so the election regulations and procedures can vary from state to state. One of the things that really has come into play during this election is that Democrats were calling for nationwide mail-in voting because of COVID. And many people, including the president, I believe, are of the mind that the Democrats were using COVID as an excuse to push universal mail-in voting. We know they were. It was part of the relief package that Nancy Pelosi was negotiating back in the beginning of the CARES Act. And so we know that this was on the table for them. And as an American, I never want to see voting go to universal mail-in voting because we have a sacred right as Americans to go to the polls and walk in and personally cast our ballot. The other reason that
they would say that that's because of the pandemic and that's to keep people safe rather than any kind of other suggestion.
Well, yeah. So just a little bit of history. Americans have voted in person through world wars, through other pandemics, through many threats. In fact, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but America was founded during a pandemic. When George Washington was with the Patriots at Valley Forge, they were actually in the middle of a pandemic, and many people, I believe over 1,000 people died at that time from that area, and a lot of people don't realize that. So our nation was founded. The founding fathers fought the British during a pandemic, and it's that spirit that gave us the freedom that we have today. And America is a constitutional republic. It's an experiment that is unrivaled in the world in terms of the way that we run our country and the way that our democratic process works. And Americans.
Do you think the current president has handled the pandemic well enough?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very thankful that he was in office when the pandemic came. He was on top of it back in January. He was already stockpiling PPE at the time. He was looking at ways to close the country. He addressed it in his address to the nation on February 4th. He was already talking about the pandemic. People who say that he was behind the eight ball on this simply weren't paying attention. And most of those people were downplaying it and saying that it was nothing to worry about, including Fauci, Pelosi, and many others. So for anybody to throw shade on him for this, they really need to look in the mirror. Any lack of action or wrongdoing with this pandemic.
Mary, you're a Trump fan, a Trump supporter. Has anything disappointed you from his first term in office?
No, nothing at all for the president. The one thing that has disappointed me deeply is that the Democrats have refused the peaceful transfer of power that is tradition in every presidency since the founding of our country.
Surely they would say that it's Donald Trump who is refusing to see that
No,
through.
let's go back to the 2016 election. That's what I'm talking about. The Democrats, in collusion with the media, have conspired to remove him from office, and that is something that it is an affront to every American who exercised their right and freedom to vote for a president. And so there was no peaceful transfer of power. They've been trying to unseat this president from the day that he was inaugurated. They actually announced the coup starts now. And that's what they've been doing this entire time. Most people believe that what's happening right now is just another version of the coup.
A final question. Joe Biden, the other man in the race for the White House, it's obviously been a very tight race. We're still waiting on the final result. Have any of his policies impressed you at all?
No. Joe Biden has been really bad for the American people. He's had office to prove himself, and what he's done is he's actually made it worse, especially for minorities. He passed a crime bill that made it that made the penalty for drug possession, for crack possession, Black people behind bars for as much as 30 years per offense. And that is something a lot of people don't realize, that he has been really bad for Americans. His trade deals that he's made have hurt Americans. And I just want to point out that the race has not been as close as the media would make it seem. There's no way that President Trump has been in a close race with a man who has spent the last 8 months in a basement, who has barely drawn 20 or 30 people at a rally. This president, the day before this election, were the phony polls that the media put forth. It really is a shame. If we had an honest media in this country and around the world, people would see just how loved this president is and just how good his policies have been for America and the world. He's been nominated 4 times for the Nobel Peace Prize, and that has been largely overlooked by the media. Why is that?
Okay. Mary, thanks for your time. I know it's early in the morning, so thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thanks very much. And I hope we get a result one way or another quite soon.
Thank you so much. We all hope that, and we all hope that it goes in the direction of our president, who has well deserved it.
Okay, Mary, thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers.
Okay, so don't know what's going on with my streaming platform, but that is something to do with this program that I'm using. I apologize that there's a big black thing in the middle of my picture. Yeah, it was a long bit of content. That announcer was actually quite friendly compared to the one that I talked to earlier that day on the other station. But it's BBC Ulster, Northern Ireland. I can't even see. It's just so crazy. I don't know what's going on with my with the picture here. It's really annoying. Um, just crazy. I have no idea. I'm going to take some screenshots here. Well, is it happening on Facebook too? All right, so I'm going to sign off. I will see everybody tomorrow.